Welcome back. Welcome back. Well, if you watch the show at any point, you know, I'll be the first to admit, I'm not much of an outdoorsy type of guy. Never. Did the light come on for the audience? Well, the same cannot be said for our first guest today. He became the first person to visit all 419 national parks in the U.S. in one single trip. And now he's inspiring everyone really to be their true authentic selves in the outdoors in a new documentary. Take a look.
So what I want to do is I want the intro of our documentary to be you saying, there's some oars in this house.
Who we were to each other was teacher and student.
Entice them with a beginning that is culturally relevant. There's some oars in this house and interesting.
And then that evolved into friends.
Suddenly it's like the most epic drone shot ever. Oh my God, are those two hot guys about to die? And people will be like, what is this? What am I about to watch? So people will be hooked by that point.
They will. This is so exciting.
That is a little bit from the documentary Canyon Chorus. Audience, give it up for adventurer Mikah Meyer, everybody. Hi. How did this adventure begin? What made you want to do this?
The documentary or the
No, let's start with the visiting the 419, because I'll tell you, I was saying to our staff, I noticed during the pandemic a lot of my friends and of all stripes, but I was also noticing a lot of my gay friends during the pandemic, because you couldn't go anywhere, they were going to national parks. All joking aside, what made you want to do this?
Well,
the park side.
I was super lucky in that my journey ended 1 year before the pandemic happened.
Oh, nice.
It took 3 years, so if I'd have started a year later, it would have been a very different ending. But it all started when I was 19 years old. My dad was an award-winning Lutheran minister, and he passed away at age 58 and never got to retire. And as a 19-year-old, it just imparted this lesson on me that we're not all guaranteed to make it to retirement, to get to do the big dreams that we have or to spend time with people we care about. So it was really important for me to honor his life, and he loved road trips. And so every year since age 19, I've done one road trip, just like a week or something, to honor him. And I decided at age 30 I was gonna kind of put that on steroids and do one of my bucket list goals of visiting every National Park Service site in America, so that if I die at 58, I won't have missed out on my retirement goals, but also to honor him and honor the retirement that he never got.
That is beautiful, but I give you so much credit because you talk about steroids. There's one thing to do a trip to honor somebody. You went to over 400 parks. What was the most challenging aspect of that? Was it the coordination? Well, yeah, I can see your face. What was that like?
It was so much. I mean, people would read the news articles and they would write me and say, well, I'd love to go on vacation for 3 years. And I would write back and say, I would love to also.
Yes, it's not that.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an expedition. I started the journey without the money to finish it. And so I was fundraising from the road, trying to stay alive, trying to afford this epic journey, while also, going to a park and experiencing that park while sharing the last park I went to and planning for the next park I was going to. So it was like this nonstop churn of logistics and fundraising and incredible places. So it was just all these emotions up and down for 3 years. So I took a very long nap after that journey.
I bet you did.
Sort of took a break, yeah.
Did you, I hope you don't mind me asking, did you feel the presence of your dad on that trip?
I did. I mean, from tiny little things, there's a little model car that he used to have in his vehicle, and I put that on the dash of my van, and I don't know anything about mechanics, but my dad could fix
with you.
A car with like, he was a campus pastor, and his students would come to him with some problem, and he'd like literally pull out a hanger and be like, I can fix this. And so I put that car there, and I said, Dad, I don't know anything about mechanics, but if you can just make sure my van is okay for the next 3 years, like, I'd really appreciate that. That van had no problems for 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk, okay, so there's the origin of that. How did this documentary come to be?
I'm so excited about it because
it's great.
I've been working on it honestly for 5 years. So 5 years ago, right after I finished my parks journey, the brand Eddie Bauer approached me and they said, we really love what you've been doing to help people get out into nature, help them be their authentic selves. So we started working together as like an ambassador relationship. And every year that relationship grew. And by 2023, they were like, hey, you're at our highest level. Congrats, you now get to make a documentary. What story do you want to tell?
Really?
Yeah, and for me, one of the most important stories I've been wanting to tell is my dad's name was Larry. And he passed away in 2005 at the exact same time that I was auditioning for colleges to be a singing major. And it turns out that the guy who told the committee they had to give me a full-ride scholarship so I could afford to go to college, that guy's name was also Larry. And he was my college choir director. I saw him every day, 5 days a week for an hour and a half for choir class. And he actually was the first out openly gay adult I ever met. Somebody who was living proudly and authentically as themselves. And as a little closeted Midwestern kid, I had been hiding that for so long. And once I saw him and saw him living openly and honestly, it allowed me to come out. And so it was just really important for me to tell this story of somebody who was a father figure to me, someone who stepped in when my biological father died and who had the same name, and it felt like it wasn't just coincidence.
It's one of those things where if you don't have to deal with it, and it's not about if you walk through life and you're just accepted naturally, people don't understand. But if you have to fight to just be authentically yourself, if people just think about that, it's hard. I didn't go to all state parks, but I'm a Midwestern guy, and I see you. I had the same journey. We're going to take a break. More with Mikah when we come back. Back in a moment, everybody. Our guest is Mikah Meyer. Follow him on socials. I'll tell you how to watch the documentary in a little bit. Because of what society tells us is an outdoorsman, it's the Marlboro Man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry, kids, you don't even know what the Marlboro Man is. Anyway, but you know what I mean, what they tell us. Did you feel out of place? Did you feel the pressure to fit in?
I did completely. I mean, I grew up watching the Travel Channel. That was sort of my escape to travel the world, and I never saw anyone like me. All the travel show hosts, I couldn't identify as somebody that I could say, oh, I can grow up and do that too. And so when I started this journey, knowing I had to fundraise to survive on the road, I hid that part of myself because I thought, in the history of the outdoors rec industry in America, there had never been an openly LGBTQ plus person in an ad. And so I learned really quickly, like, this culture would not accept me this way and won't allow me to do this trip to honor my dad if they know this. So I started the journey basically going back in the closet.
Did you get emails from folks in the community that were changed or maybe felt like, oh, I can be a part of this aspect of life?
Totally. I mean, thousands upon thousands of emails, everything from National Park Service rangers who were like, we don't get any attention in our agency, I have to hide this part of myself, to kids in foreign countries. One that was really impactful for me and sort of changed everything was somebody sent me a message on Instagram and he said, I'm 15 years old, I go to a private Baptist school in Texas and I'm not out to anyone. But I read about you and your parks journey, and now I know when I grow up I can be ordinary. And then he said, I see you're setting world records, and now I know when I grow up I can also be extraordinary. And that was the moment that made me say I have to come out for him and for everybody else who's been writing.
Again, I don't want to keep repeating it, but it bears repeating. When you keep being told that you don't necessarily belong in this arena, and you don't really belong in this arena, the fact that the kid just wants to feel to baseline ordinary, that's crazy, Anyway, let's have a little fun. We have a video. So this was we have some video of you. I love a goose chasing story.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain what's happening in this?
Yeah, so this was during my parks journey, and I was on this 4-day, 3-night rafting trip, and from the get-go, like, we took off from the beach onto the river in this canyon where there's no cell phone service, you can't access it. There was this wild Canadian goose that followed us. And at the end of the journey, we named him George the Goose. And George would hike up canyons with us a mile and back. He never left our side. And at the end of the journey, somebody saw me giving a speech and said, I think that George the Goose was a spirit of your father who came along, which is crazy because I was telling that story at another speech I was giving, and there was a Lutheran minister in the audience, just like my dad. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, I know George the Goose is a spirit of your father. Because
it's like a Harry Potter Patronus.
Well,
yes.
In Lutheranism, geese are really symbolic because the predecessor to Martin Luther, his name was Jan Hus, which translates as goose, and so you'll often see a photo of Martin Luther holding a goose. I know, and really, like, I tell people, I'm like, if you're rafting on the Green River and you see a goose, like, yell out George, because he actually stayed around the campground after we left, and we found out that the National Park Service was going to remove him, and I don't know what that means. But they made this decision, and then the next morning they went to get him, and he had vanished overnight. So
he knew.
Yeah,
I'm out. If I have a feeling whether in their Chicago, Seattle, Iowa, wherever they're watching, Orlando, wherever they're watching us from, I think there's going to be a kid that is going to be inspired by what you just said. If they're watching, what's a good national park to start? In your opinion, off the top of your head, what's a great starter national park?
So the best national park service site for you to go to is the one in your state or territory. We have this misconception that the National Park Service only manages the big 63 national parks, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, Acadia, but actually we have national monuments, national seashores. Minnesota has 5 National Park Service sites, so the best National Park Service site for anyone to visit is going to be the one closest to them because everybody has one near them.
My favorite, yeah, absolutely. I love Glacier. Glacier is one of my favorites.
Incredible.
It's such a beauty. If you haven't gotten a chance, it's great. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you have done. And it sounds overly dramatic, but you change lives, and I just really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Give it up for Mikah Meyer. You can watch the Canyon Chorus documentary on his website, mikahmeyer.com, or you can find it on YouTube. And if you're watching locally here in the Twin Cities, there's a showing coming up June 25th at the REI store in Bloomington. We're going to go down memory lane of 9 seasons when we come back. Back in a moment, everybody. Thank you, my friend. What a pleasure. Thank you so much.